see from the live chat that I'm accused of lateness, but I never scheduled a time. I was just mooching around and listening to other streams. But thank you for showing an interest and turning up in your great numbers, TIA and Mike Malzahn. I don't know if you'd like to tell us what you think about the latest ice shooting. It sounds so terrible, doesn't it? I was going to say something about it because I was talking about it earlier today with some Americans, and one of them said, it was none of my business, and I'm not even American, and how dare I? And I thought, well, you can't, excuse me, you can't really stop people from criticizing your country, even if they've never visited it and never intend to. They might be saying all kinds of unflattering things about it and calling it a shithole country, and and I guess you can't stop them, even if you'd like to. And then, then he said I didn't have First Amendment rights, and I thought, well, maybe they're not particularly relevant because, I mean, I don't need my First Amendment rights to go on YouTube. I can say whatever I like. Though, of course, if I said something really terrible, my account could be deleted. Or if I said something really terrible against the community rules on somebody else's channel, or just insulted the host, I might get kicked off. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Claire. As an American, I would like to welcome you to criticize America all you choose.
Thank you. I wasn't even being particularly critical. So this guy was just going on and on. Okay, he was upset. I mean, to be fair, he was upset. He called a friend of his in Minnesota, and his friend yelled at him. And I guess he was saying, well, what do you expect me to do about it? And, I'm not responsible, for it. And what do you expect the government to do about it? Stop deporting illegals, immigrants. That's not what, he wanted to happen necessarily. But yes, I guess people are, just getting hot under the collar over nothing at all. And I was just going to say that, so he accused me of really stirring up trouble amongst Americans. As I said, not really, because, the rights of an American citizen is a kind of a, what do you call it, a gold standard? Well, maybe it's not a gold standard now, but, it's you guys who are supposed to have all your constitutional protections. So, the rest of the world, looks to you for, the maximum number of rights. But maybe some other country actually has more rights than you guys. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said it's the First Amendment, but did you just say you have more rights than we have?
No, I'm saying perhaps there is some other country in the world that, allows its citizens more rights than America.
I remember...
Though I do not know which one it might be.
Well, I remember a Brazilian, I can't remember if he was a tennis player or a soccer player. He got pulled over and arrested for DUI, and he's like, what are you talking about? You can't drink and drive? I thought this was a free country. So that was like in the 80s, but yeah, he was like astounded by, what do you mean I can't drink and drive? If I don't hit anything, I don't hit anything. You can't just pull me over and say I'm endangering people by being drunk while driving. It's crazy. I thought this was the land of the free. But I was wondering, not to derail your ice shootings. I'm more than happy to talk about those as well. But do you think the UK has any sort of freedom of speech? I don't know if you ever saw Lauren Southern. I guess she's a Canadian on like Rebel News or something. Kind of hot blonde chick. She was in Luton. I guess she had Time magazine had an article about maybe Jesus was gay. Like, he never married. He hung out with a bunch of dudes. So she made up flyers that said, is Allah gay? Is it possible Allah's gay? And the Muslims, nobody attacked her quite yet, but the cops came and told her she had to surrender. She had a little table with leaflets and stuff, had to surrender all her material. They're going to arrest her. The Muslims, might turn violent. In America, we call that the heckler veto, that, someone's saying something and someone else says, I'm going to react violently to it. You stop the person from saying it, as opposed to stop the violent person from being violent. So anyways, she got banned from the UK. She's no longer.
Yes, I have a memory of that.
Antisocial, whatever. So you've heard of that?
Behavioral order and ASBO. Well, I guess it's a very clever way of saying, everybody else can cross a road, but not you, because if you cross the road, you'd be, on somebody's side of the street, and that would be provocative. But everybody else, they can cross the road, something like that.
Right.
It just pertains to you as as an individual.
Right. Yeah. Am I reading this wrong? But I keep hearing, like, in the UK, there was like a preacher, guy standing on the corner. He's got his little megaphone thing, and he may have said something about the gays or whatever. And so someone called the police. They were offended. So in the UK, if I say something and it offends someone, I can then be charged with a crime.
Sorry, can you say that again? If you did what, you could be charged with a crime?
If I say something that offends someone, I can then be charged as being offensive, or saying something that's not socially cohesive, or what. I don't know what the rule is. You guys have some sort of weird, like, social harmony rule, right? Maybe I'll Google it.
It's called hate speech, but you see,
you have hate speech laws. What is that? I mean,
well, it came from nowhere. I mean, it literally came from nowhere. So there is no, act of parliament forbidding hate speech or anything of that sort. So it actually comes from the Public Order Act 1986. But the Public Order Act is about public order.
Public order. That's what it's called. Yes, public order.
Well, that's right.
Right.
So I think, it is technically been utterly misapplied, but nobody else even thinks to question it. So, if you're sitting at home reading something that you find, insulting or racist or sexist or whatever, you pose no difficult, no problem for public order, because even if you're really angry and, maybe you might, break your table or break a few pencils or smash the screen, it's not a public order problem. But the sort of treating the internet as if it were the street, that's how you get so angry, you're going to smash some shop windows and break, smash some car windows or something. It literally came out of nowhere and no one questioned it.
Right. No, well, I think a bunch of people question it, but yeah, you guys are like, I see videos and coming knocking on somebody's door because he posted something on Facebook. I mean, you can say what you will about ICE being Nazis or whatever, but you guys are like literally knocking on people's doors because they voice an opinion.
Yeah, we have no.
I mean, Tommy Robinson.
We have no rights at all, really.
Okay.
I'm certainly not going to pretend that we have, lots of rights, but I'm saying also that, when the First Amendment is infringed, not a lot of Americans seem to notice or care, I suppose. I mean, that's also, I guess not everybody is trained as a lawyer to say, that's in some way infringing my First Amendment rights, and I can't say, for example, the election was stolen in 2020, or that, the vaccines are, harming people, because you could lose your YouTube account. You would get a strike, and then you wouldn't be able to, express your opinion on YouTube. And for some, it was, a terrible penalty.
I mean, that's the nuance of legality. The First Amendment applies to the government, not to private organizations, right? I tried to
Yes.
explain
So,
on the Muslim Lantern. I got banned for it, I think. But
mhm,
if you come into my house and you say something I find offensive, I can kick you out of my house, right?
sure.
Okay.
And
So
I
you're
guess
on YouTube.
YouTube is saying, oh, but we're private property. We
Right.
yes, or Facebook or any social media platform. But then, it kind of gets confused when the government gets upset, and I think they fine social media platforms for not removing certain posts quickly enough.
I've never heard that. Do you have an
I think it
example?
happens a lot in Germany.
Well,
Um,
okay. I meant in America. The
yeah.
Germans hate freedom of speech. You can't have a swastika in America. It's funny talking to Muslims. They're all like, "Oh, you don't have freedom of speech. You can't, wave a swastika around. The Jews have control over you." It's like, what are you talking about? There were Nazis at Disney World not too long ago, all waving swastikas.
Oh, well,
Uh, yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
and DeSantis got denounced for not denouncing him. So that, like, oh, he's a white supremacist. He didn't denounce the Nazis. We
Hmm.
have a huge Southern flag, battle flag of the Confederacy. A lot of people think it's the flag of the Confederacy, but it's actually the battle flag. That's between I-75 and I-4. That some Southern guys bought a little plot of land and they got a 1,000 square foot Southern flag flying that most blacks consider a
Hmm.
symbol of racism. Which it
Yes.
did kind of show up in the 50s and 60s in the South. When the civil rights movement was, getting going, and the Southerners were like, kind of like, "Hey, we fought a war to enslave you blacks. Don't get too uppity on us."
Well, I suppose, yes, on the question of slavery, I've been making the point that, God, he forbade a lot of things, but he didn't forbid slavery in either the Torah or the Quran. So, you know, that's something to be thinking of, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, well, what is not forbidden is allowed. And, you
sure,
know,
sure. It's one of my favorite arguments against Islam is that it loves slavery. It's all for slavery. The war booty attempted to be taken in the Battle of Uhud, the Battle of the Mound, the second big battle, where the
well, I
archers
suppose you have
left
to.
the high ground to retrieve the booty as the Arab
Mhm.
women ran away, lifting their skirts so you could see their bangles.
I suppose you have to incentivize soldiers by, offering to share the booty with them. Otherwise, they'll wonder what it's all for.
Right.
Um,
Well, and that's Muhammad told them not to leave their posts, but they didn't want to lose out on their booty to the foot
mhm.
soldiers, so they ran down from the mountain. And
Yes,
then
I mean,
Muhammad was outflanked by
mhm.
Khalid, Ibn Walid Khalid, who later became the Sword of Allah, but at the time was a pagan. He's actually in a video game considered the only undefeated general in ancient times.
Oh,
If anybody
right.
wants to Google.
Do you play
TIA
video
says your
games?
glasses are flexing on you. I don't know what that means.
I find, some people's English very hard to understand. Hmm.
Flexing sounds a little ghetto. I'm not sure what that means. Little slangy, maybe.
Hmm.
These are from the Dollar Tree. Although they're $1.25 now. The Dollar Tree, when everything used to be $1, then it went up to $1.25. Really disconcerting.
Right.
It's a 25% increase. Let's just go up a nickel.
Yes.
And I don't know. Hey, I got a question for you, Claire. Totally off topic. Gas, or as you guys call it, petro. You guys, I know you
Yes.
sell it by the liter, right? But you don't have like the 99 tenths thing on your pumps, do you? Like, how much is gas?
I don't know how petrol. I don't drive, so I don't really know petrol
You
in the
don't buy gas?
UK.
You're
Um,
very un-American.
well, I don't
Anyways,
have a car, and I'm relieved.
in America, Our gas
It's
prices
136 pence per litre.
Yeah, what's the difference between a pence and a quid? I mean, I assume a pence is a penny, not a pound. But what is a
A pence
quid?
is a cent.
Right, okay. A pence is 1 cent.
It's a pound. Yeah, pennies and pounds.
Right. What is a quid?
Yeah, it's a pound.
It's a pound. Okay. It's just
Mhm.
slang. It's like saying bread or something.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
anyways, in America, we still price our gasoline as like $2.85 and 9 tenths.
You still sell them in gallons, don't you?
It's in gallons, right? But my point is, there's a 9 tenths of a cent on it, because back when gas was like 5 cents a gallon, right? If you raised it 1 cent, that'd be a 20% increase. So they used to price gas by the tenths of a cent, right? It would be like 5 cents and 3 tenths, 5 cents and 5 tenths, half a cent, 5 tenths and 9 tenths. But they still put the
But
9
they've
tenths.
given. Oh, it's still there. You haven't
It's
changed
still
the
there.
system.
It's on every, you drive in, there's always a 9 tenths. One time in Mississippi, I saw a guy had 8 tenths up there. I'm like, who do you think notices they're saving a tenth of a cent? Like, you're just losing money, buddy.
It's the principle of the thing. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't get it. There's no principle in it. Get rid of the 9 tenths. Just make it $2.91 as opposed to $2.90 and 9 tenths.
Okay, Mr. Big Spender.
And we need to eliminate the letter C.
Why?
Because it makes an S sound, and we have an S, and it makes a K sound, and we have a K. Why is city?
Well, I guess it'll be very difficult to enforce.
Why is city spelled C-I-T-Y, but university is spelled with an S-I-T-Y? Makes no sense.
To confuse foreigners and native speakers, and
we can
show people up for being bad spellers and not paying attention enough at school.
See, that's probably why I have a thing for it, because I failed phonics in the 2nd grade and I've never recovered. I'm a horrible speller. Why do little kids spell cat with a K? Because it makes sense. We need to go to phonetic spelling. Of course, you guys say schedule instead of schedule, so who knows what's going on with this English language. The only thing worse than English is probably. That's true,
I think
TIA.
the American preference is
TIA,
the American preference.
Let's talk about English.
What?
TIA says now he doesn't like English. I'm like, yeah, I don't like English. TIA should come on. Let's talk about English. Or should we get back to the shootings?
Yeah. Tell us what you think.
Okay. So the first shooting, this Renee Good, reminded me of the Tyron Lewis shooting here in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1994, I think it was, maybe 96. You can Google it. So there's this black kid who had bought a car from a crack dealer that night or something, and so the tags weren't right, and cops stood in front of him. He lunged his car forward. The cop was on the hood, fired through the windshield, killed him. And then the Uhurus rioted that night, and then they rioted again when the cop got off. But yeah, cops shouldn't be standing in front of cars. It's stupid. Although if you watch the video of the Renee Good shooting, he was actually off to the side and she turned towards him. And it's funny, the liberals were like, well, see, she was pulling away from him. Well, he can't see the tires are turned that way. And she definitely hit him. I was on a liberal website and people were like, she never hit him. I'm like, no, you can see the video. She hit him. He goes onto the hood a little bit and fires through the windshield, one shot or two, and then through the side thing. I think it's a bad shoot just because his buddies were not far from him. He could have just as easily hit the other ICE guys standing on the side of the car, but it's going to be a clean shoot. He's going to get off. That's not a problem. This new one, The guy was clearly armed. The one cop, I don't know if you've seen the video, the one, I guess these are border patrol guys, not even ICE, misidentified a lot, but grabbed a gun out of his holster, and as the other cop shot him, So this is the old, fuck around and find out theory.
Mm-hmm.
You bring a gun to a gunfight, you might get shot. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yes, and he has form for doing this sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, my point was that it's not even so much about the, ICE shooting. So this American was saying he called his friend in Minnesota. His friend in Minnesota got very upset and started shouting at him, and he was saying, "What's that got to do with me?" And I was thinking later that, maybe, I guess if your friend is very upset about something, I mean, you wouldn't say, "Well, what's that got to do with me? I don't care if you're upset. What's it got to do with me?" If you were trying to be kind, you'd say, "Oh, that's really upsetting. How terrible." Blah blah blah. It's maybe the dismissing of the concern that made his friend even angrier. The one he phoned, the one in Minnesota that he phoned. I suppose if we don't respond in a way that is expected when somebody is telling us, some news that that they're obviously upset about, then we're just going to be sort of yelled at, I guess, for being heartless and uncaring and tactless and unfeeling and whatever. Are you particularly concerned, Mike?
No, I'm not the least bit concerned.
Because you're not the street demo kind of guy.
No, I've never taken to the streets to.
But I guess if you did regularly demonstrate, you might be concerned.
I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, if you're stupid enough to bring a gun to a demonstration, I remember. What was it? 1988. It was that spring break in Key West, and the cops had pulled this guy out of the bar. They were arresting him, and I mean, they were like beating the crap out of him. People were standing around. Of course, we didn't have cell phones back then or anything with cameras on them, but they hog-tied him. They picked him up, threw him in the back of the cruiser. But at one point, I'd walk forward. I'm like, "Hey, man, you got to do that to him." And a cop turned around and whacked me on the chest with his baton, said, "Back up." So I backed up. When the cops tell you to do something right, wrong, and different, you got to do it. They got guns.
Yes, and I think
with whatever immunity, obviously, who was it? Derek Chauvin went to jail for kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds or whatever it was to kill him. But the cops generally get off. It is ironic. Minnesota, I don't know if you ever heard of the case. I think the woman's name was like Justine Diamond, where a Somali cop shot her he was in the passenger seat, shot her through the driver's side window. After she had called the cops, she thought someone was being raped in her alley. And as she approached the cop car, she had her cell phone out, and this Somali cop thought it was a gun and shot her. He did get convicted, but I posted it in the chat. Daniel Shiver, I think was the guy's name. One of the most disturbing videos you'll ever see. So the guy was an exterminator, and his job was to go around to like Home Depots and the big box stores that had like pigeon infestations. And so he had a pellet gun to shoot pigeons. And he's in a hotel room. He's having drinks with the people who were staying next to him. And he held up his pellet gun, and those big windows in the hotels. I don't know if you guys have like motor hotels in the UK, but usually there's a big window in the front. Somebody in the pool sees him holding the gun. they call the cops, say there's a man with a rifle, although she says it doesn't look, it looks like it could be a toy or something. Anyway, 6 cops show up. They're part of the video. They have body cameras. They're strategizing what to do. And here comes the dude. He walks around the corner with the woman who's staying next to him. They get the woman away. The guy's down on the ground. They're like, crawl to me. They were like screaming at him. They're like, put your left ankle over your right ankle. And he puts his right over the left. And the cop's like, wrong. Dude, this is and so he starts crawling to the cop. And he's got like athletic shorts on. So his knee kind of hits his short pants and kind of pulls his waistband down. So he reaches back to pull his waistband up, and the cop shoots him. Says, oh, he was going for a gun. Cop got off. Scot-free. So don't mess around with the cops. They got guns, and they can shoot you, and they usually get off for it.
Yes, and public policy also, determines that you should kind of protect the cops because they are, I guess, the ones taking the risk.
They got the law on their side.
Yes, I suppose, a lot of demonstrators will be getting the hint now about how things are going to turn out for them if they try to impede Border Patrol or ICE. And I suppose eventually they'll forget about it because, there was the Kent State shootings when those students were shot for peacefully demonstrating about, Kent State, wasn't it?
Kent State, yeah. I got tear gassed in Orlando at a Grateful Dead show in the 90s, and the hippies were yelling, remember Kent State? Yeah, that one girl crying. Yeah, the National Guard was called out. And those guys aren't trained. And the song Ohio from Neil Young is about Kent State.
Right. So I guess
Scott says he was even crying. It's a really horrible video. I posted the video of this guy getting shot, and he's a white guy. But yeah, he was like literally begging for his life. He's like, don't shoot me, don't shoot me. He's on his knees. He puts his hands on his head, and the cop screams at him, I said, put your hands up. Like they could have cuffed him multiple times, but the cop ends up shooting. So yeah, don't fuck around with the cops.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to have a college degree to be a cop. There's a Simpsons episode where Bart gets arrested or something. He asks the cops, like, do you have to be a straight A student to be a cop? And they start laughing. Some of the dumbest people in the world are cops. And some of them become cops so they can shoot people.
Yes, I can imagine a few, ICE officers, maybe wanting to do that. And also, it's just that it's not just one shot. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it made me think: do they think they're playing some kind of video game? And probably, they do, and then, maybe it's a kind of reflection.
Once they hear a shot, they all just start firing. I mean, again, if you go back to the 90s, there was an African immigrant in New York City that the street cops were after, and they shot him 41 times, I think. Abdullah something. And he pulled out his wallet. And I remember I was literally in a bar talking to an ex-New York detective, arguing that they were correct in shooting him because they thought it was a gun. I'm like, but it wasn't a gun. It was his wallet. And he's like, but he pulled it out like this, like he was holding a gun or something. I'm like, but it was his wallet. The guy was literally going into, I think, his own apartment, and 5 or 6 cops were running after him for whatever reason. I think what happened was one of the cops fell and discharged his gun, and so they all just opened fire on the guy. It was brought up in the NYPD one time. I'll Google it for you, but it's a very famous case.
Right.
And he was literally shot 40 times, I think.
Yes, I can sort of almost, I guess in a very tense situation, you hear gunshot and you have a gun and you think you're supposed to be using it, then it might just be a kind of reflex. So of course your training should tell you not to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, we need to have a rule that cops actually get shot at before they shoot anybody. I know they all say, well, their first job is to go home alive to their family and all that. Their first job should be not to kill someone else. They claim they're so brave. They claim they're, I'm not a big fan of cops. I don't like cops. I've only met a couple of them that have been cool my whole life. But their first rule should be not to kill someone else, not to kill an innocent person, at least. Right. So I think the rule should be they have to actually be shot at. Our military goes into war zones with rules of engagement that are often you can't fire at someone unless they fire at you, even if they point a gun at you.
Uh-huh.
So the cops should be Wikipedia is not a source. Are you sure? Anyway. You guys don't even have, your cops don't even carry guns over there, right?
Well, they're no, not generally, but certain certain cops do carry guns, and there is, what do you call them? When they're needed, they do turn up, I suppose, carrying guns and rifles and that sort of thing.
Yeah, your gun carrying guys are almost like our SWAT, which are like they carry really big guns.
Mm-hmm.
But your beat cops, right? If there's a domestic disturbance and someone calls the cops, they're not going to be armed, are they?
Well, one hopes not. But I suppose just the fact that you have a gun makes you, more inclined to use it. And there were people who say, well, once we arm our cops, then the criminals will go around armed too. So I don't really know the situation. I suppose Americans think, occasionally getting shot at is the price you pay, for your Second Amendment rights.
Absolutely, yes.
And you're prepared to pay for it. So that's you're right, obviously. But I guess people do get trigger happy. If they're scared, they're going to be, shoot first, ask questions later, and in a way that's understandable. If you're, frightened, that would, almost be the, the reaction.
Yeah, it's usually not a good outcome when people have guns on them. Here in Florida, I think we went back to open carry now. We'll see. I remember, again, it was the 80s or 90s where you go into a restaurant and they'd have a big sign on the door, no firearms allowed, because we went open carry for a while, then we didn't, and then I guess we're back to it.
So if it's properly open carry, do you put your gun on your table or something? Is that
right. Well,
is that allowed?
It has to. It's not a concealed carry. You still have to get a license to conceal carry. But yeah, you have to have it exposed. You put it on your hip. I was in Alaska with a couple buddies, and my one buddy wanted to bring his gun. Alaska was open carry, so. And then my other buddy who lived in Alaska is like, well, I got a 45, in case, because we did go out into the woods and there are bears and stuff. I'm like, I only want one guy with a gun. We shot his gun a bit and stuff. My one buddy went on the other side of the RV. He didn't want anything to do with the gun. But I've handled firearms before, and it's not a big deal. But I was like, I want to know where the gun is at all times so I can be behind it. Last thing I want is you two guys shooting at a bear, what you think is a bear, and me in between you. So we're only bringing one gun. And sure enough, we went out, we were fishing this stream, and my buddy's got his 9mm on his hip, and we go walking down, and there's 3 guys, from Alaska down there, and they all had guns on them. I was like, well, this doesn't look great, but nobody got to shooting. And then, of course, we went into Canada over what's called the Top of the World Highway, and we had to bury the gun outside of Alaska or outside of Canada, because that's the last thing you want is to try to get a handgun into Canada.
Because it's illegal in Canada.
Yes, very illegal in Canada.
Then did you come and collect it later?
Yes, we went back the same route. We collected it later. We buried it near a tree, near a signpost, off the road. What do you want to know about Cubans? We got a ton of Cubans in Tampa Bay. Very good people. And we have Cuban sandwiches. Maybe that's what TIA is asking about.
Sandwiches?
We claim the Cuban sandwich over Miami, but there was some debate about it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a flatbread with pulled pork and pickles and mustard and a couple other meats on it, but it's considered peasant food out of Tampa Bay. Come here. You're not a Muslim. You can eat some pork. We'll get you some Cubans.
You're making me feel a little peckish.
Yes, and it's pressed.
Yes.
Cuban is hot pressed.
Hot pressed, so it's squished by something.
Yeah, like a panini. You guys have paninis over there in the UK? It's put in a press that's hot on the bottom and hot on the top.
I think YouTube has gone crazy. I only typed "want to join us, Scott," and then YouTube rejected your comment. This usually let me try it again. I mean, that's quite harmless. I mean, Scott may not want to join us, but that was all I said in my comment that was rejected.
TIA wasn't even born in 1999. You got a young audience here, Claire. That's good.
Well, yes, it's reassuring, I suppose, for an elderly person like me.
Chicago. Is that like Chicago?
Well, he's talking about Detroit pizzas. Are they special?
I think Detroit has like a deep dish pizza, like yes. Chicago. They have like a different style pizza in Detroit. I'm not sure. I've never been to Detroit, but maybe driven through it, but never stopped for the pizza. So anyways, Claire, back to the topic. What do you think of the 2 ICE shootings in Minneapolis? Do you think the cops will be convicted? Do you think?
Well, I know that there are no disciplinary procedures being for the first cop. There's nothing happening to him, is there? As far as I know, because I assumed he would have to be disciplined, but I apparently not.
Well, I think it's like standard procedure. Anytime a cop even discharges their weapon, whether they hit anybody or not, they're usually put on desk duty. They got to go see the psychiatrist, especially if they actually kill somebody. They may be put on leave, but it's usually with pay. So, I mean, I'm sure they're investigating it, but he's not probably back on the streets just yet. He also apparently got run over or got dragged by a car like a year ago. So he might be a little sensitive to having cars driven at him. I think anytime a cop shoots somebody, they should be taken off the street right then. They should never be allowed back on the street. But I'm a somewhat liberal conservative, I guess.
Yes, and maybe they're having trouble recruiting and retaining staff, so they might have to use.
Yeah, well, I mean, ICE, I think, is paying like $70,000 to anybody who will join ICE right now. They had a recruitment thing in a hotel in Tampa, and the liberals came out to protest it and stuff. But
right.
If you want to round
yes,
up,
I saw something on. Right. I was saying that I saw something on X about an ICE officer, boasting that he's being paid to do this sort of thing, and he loved his job, and couldn't get enough of it. Just to annoy the liberals, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure they're getting lots of guys who just want to beat people up at this point.
Mm-hmm. I'm asked to say what I think about liberalism. I think it's the religion that is maybe on its way out. I mean, I know it's probably controversial to talk about liberalism as a kind of religion, but I think that was what it's been about. If you think of the French Revolution and what the French revolutionaries were saying, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And I suppose, also the American Revolution, which talks about, the pursuit of liberty, life, and happiness. Did I get the items right?
Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Yes.
Yes, life, liberty. Yeah.
The original text was life, liberty, and happiness. And somebody told, I can't remember if Jefferson wrote the preamble or if it was not Paine, Madison. But anyways, one of the guys said, wait, you can't guarantee people happiness. So they
only the pursuit of it.
The pursuit of happiness. Yes.
Yes. And I thought they were going to say the pursuit of land, life, liberty, and land. And then they thought, it sounds, too grasping and imperialistic. We'll have to, use a nicer word.
Yeah, maybe too aristocracy. Although, I mean, Hamilton, I think, only wanted landowners to be given the vote, not the hoi polloi. So. Yes.
Well, yes, I guess that makes sense because, the first shooting, I thought, well, I was relieved that I wouldn't ever be on the jury to decide, whether, what the officer thought he was doing, because, the thing is that, he did, the car did look like he was, it was going towards him, but really she wanted to get away. But just on paper, it looks bad for her because she was, obstructing the highway. She disobeyed the orders of a government agent, and then was trying to get away to avoid arrest. So that looked pretty bad. I don't know what they're going to say about is it Pretty or Pretti? Do you know how to pronounce the name of the?
Pretty? Yeah, pretty bad. It looks pretty bad.
Yes. Yes.
Which again is a weird English thing. Pretty means like beautiful, but then pretty bad means like kinda. Does that make sense? It's kind of bad. It's pretty bad. It's more than kind of. It's 60% bad. I don't know what pretty is. Maybe it's 90% bad.
Yes. I mean, this reminds me of a card that I saw a long time ago. I think it was a Valentine's card that I saw in a shop that I thought was quite funny. And it goes, I'd like to see you pretty soon. And then you turn the page and it says, because you've been ugly for so long. And I thought that was funny.
Apparently you guys' Valentines are very different than in America. Because you're supposed to say nice things in the Valentine.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, the thing
about the second one, apparently now we're getting more and more video out.
Mm-hmm.
the guy clearly had a gun on him,
Mm-hmm.
but the one border patrol guy or cop, we'll just call them cops, grabbed the gun out of the guy's holster
Mm-hmm.
and was turned and was walking away when the other cop shot him. So apparently there's, I don't know if you've ever seen the liberal hive mind. He's a conservative guy, obviously, razzing the liberals. But so somebody posted on Twitter that they think what happened was the cop who grabbed the gun and pulled it out accidentally discharged it. And so then when the cop heard the gunfire, just started shooting the guy. But if you look at the video, and the guy's kind of good, he's like, well, you can see him pointing the gun down, but you don't see, like, if he fired it into the asphalt, something should pop up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see his hand doesn't move, you know, a little kickback, nothing. Obviously, either you'll believe the government or not, whether or not that gun was fired. But the guy had a gun. You can hear in the video, they're all yelling gun, gun. And then one guy decides to shoot him, you know, just like the Renee Good thing. The cop gets bumped by the car. Yeah, he could have just rolled off the side of the car. You know, he didn't need to shoot her.
Mm-hmm.
But he did.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they do sometimes. And again, I think if I was his buddy who was standing next to the truck, I'd be like, dude, you could have hit me. There's a video of these cops in Philly where they pull a guy over and they say, you know, brandishes the gun. And the two cops are standing on the opposite side of the car. And the one shooting at the guy through the one side, you know. It's like, dude, I think you'd be more concerned about your buddy standing over there.
Yeah.
ICE has literally hired Jan 6 convicted and pardoned rioters. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, Trump's crazy, man. Don't be messing with Trump. He might nuke Greenland next.
Well, they can't do anything but just let you guys have it. But somebody was saying, well, it was really more a question of Trump's legacy. You know, he wanted to be the American president who got Greenland for America, to make America great again. But in practice, all America had to do was just say the word. You know, hey, you know, Denmark, we want to do stuff in Greenland, and you know, and we're going to do it whether you like it or not. And I guess the Danes would just have to say, okay.
Yeah, so now we apparently signed some sort of treaty with them to put some bases up there. We certainly should have anti-ballistic missiles up there. Also, you have the whole North Passage. If you know, global warming continues, the route, you know, up over the North Pole, you know, it's like planes fly north to south, not around the globe, because it's faster and cheaper. So,
well, they fly over the North Pole. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
and now they can't.
No, of course they can't. I'm just saying, consider the shape of the globe as a sphere, right? Like, I went to Germany. We flew to New York. We didn't fly in a straight line to Germany around the globe. We flew up over the top. You know, so there's the same thing with shipping. As global warming continues to happen and permanent ice starts to melt, it's called the Northwest Passage. You can start shipping oil and other things up over the top as opposed to around. And so whoever controls that trade route has some power.
I'll have to look up the map. But now it belongs. Is it international waters or?
I mean, it depends on how close you get to a country, right? I mean, everyone controls 12 miles out is considered international waters, but then you have an economic zone of 200 miles, I think. That's why the Chinese are building those artificial islands down in the South China Sea to create a bigger economic zone to get the minerals and whatnot.
Oh yeah, so technically it's British because it's Canadian, but yes.
Yeah, Canada
Makes
has.
sense.
I mean, and that's one of the great, this whole Greenland thing. People are like, "What? You can't buy another country." And I'm like, "Well, we bought Alaska from the Russians. It was considered Seward's folly, but turned out to be a great deal. Not just for the seals and whatnot, but there's a ton of oil up.
And the Philippines from the Spanish.
Well, we took that in the Spanish-American War.
And you bought the. Yes,
And
I think you did
Puerto
pay
Rico.
them something.
Did we? Okay. Well, that was nice of McKinley. Pay him a little something, but
Yes.
we sunk their fleet there before they got out of the gate. We took the Philippines. I don't know why we gave Cuba up. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt. That's why Tampa's here. The great city of Tampa was mostly built around the Rough Riders, Fort Brooke, leaving to go fight in Cuba. Charge up San Juan. But we kept Puerto Rico, but we gave up Cuba. Those were both Spanish. That's why they speak Spanish. They were both Spanish territories. And the Philippines, and then they revolted against us. So it was a Taft, called them our little brown brothers.
Yes, apparently you paid the Spanish $20 million in 1898 under the Treaty of Paris.
All right.
That ended the Spanish-American War.
You don't always kick a man when he's down. So that was nice of us. Give him $20 million. Apparently Haiti still owes France money. So, then I can have Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and either make DC a state or one of the other islands. No, DC shouldn't be a state. It's part of Maryland. Just folded into Maryland. I don't know what this District of Columbia is for. We're not giving up 2 senators to this tiny little enclave.
Sorry, what's this about Maryland?
Well, DC's in northern Maryland, southern Virginia, right? Do I have my map wrong? Anyways, the Democrats want to make DC a state, right? DC is like 80% African American. So if they become a state, they'll get 2 senators. So the Democrats, and it's hugely Democratic. So they would pick up 2 senators and a lot of power that way.
Well, I don't know why Trump doesn't abolish the party system, because that would be his, a better legacy in my view. You don't think it's a good idea? I mean, Washington warned Americans not to have political parties, didn't he?
I know. I read half of his.
I know, but you don't care.
That you told me to read, and he's about the parties. But do we need more parties?
No. You have a one-party state like China.
No, we have a 2-party state, although the 2 parties aren't much different.
Well, exactly. So the whole idea of having a one-party state, Mike, is this: it would concentrate people's minds. It's like, well, we have to make sure that the party constitution protects the rights of the party members, and blah blah blah, and that would be helpful in ensuring that the ruling classes have their rights protected. And if you look at the Chinese constitution, it says things like a member has a right to training and to look at policy papers and the right to criticize the leadership and government policy without being kicked out of the party. And I thought, that's a really important right. Otherwise, you'll get kicked out for any reason at all. And in the UK, in the Conservative Party, what they do is they can get rid of you for any reason at all, at the absolute discretion of the secretary of the board of the Conservative Party. So they don't even have to give a reason. They'll just say, well, your face doesn't fit anymore. we don't like your past, off you go. With
Right.
no
But
disciplinary procedure or anything like
but
that.
you can still run for office. You just don't have the party's
Well, in
backing.
theory,
I mean,
you could run. Yeah, you could run as an independent, but people
right,
know, yes, you might even be elected MP, but you'll be here today, gone tomorrow, because it's just you. You have no party machinery to back you, and then you'll soon be gone. And so, I suppose you
right.
can make a point, but you won't be there long, and nobody will take you seriously. Well,
Well,
it seems in
I mean,
China.
Bernie Sanders is technically an independent, although he caucuses with the Democrats. And when he ran for president, he ran under the Democrats. And some say he got pushed out for Hillary due to the
Mhm,
party machine. Joe
mhm.
Lieberman was a Democrat for many years, and then he got primaried by and lost to a Democrat, so he ran as an independent and won a Senate seat. Um,
Mhm.
Teddy Roosevelt created his own party. They called it the Bull
Mhm.
Moose Party. Perot, I think, could have won in '92 if he hadn't dropped out and then got back in. And of course, Stockdale, his vice president guy, was crazy. There's a hilarious Saturday Night Live skit on him. But
Mhm.
there's everybody says we're a two-party system. There's all sorts of parties. I mean, like usually at least a dozen people run for president every year. They don't get on every state ballot because that's one of the weird things. I don't know why the federal election isn't run by the feds. You got different rules for different states. Um, but
Mm.
we have as many parties as anyone wants to create. They're just, I've voted libertarian twice now in my life. I voted for Ron Paul in 1988, first election I voted in. And I voted for, what was that guy's name? Gary Johnson in 2016.
Well, I don't know what he stood for, but I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that if you look at the Democrats, I mean, they used to be the party of the KKK. Now they're the party of BLM. So they've gone. They've done a 180 degrees turn on their policy, like from being racist to being anti-racist. So it shows a complete lack of political principle. So you might as well just have one party that swears to promote the national interest, and then everybody can argue about what is or isn't a national interest. And I mean, wouldn't that be better if things went, if well, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
okay,
yeah. I mean, the Democrats certainly, who was the last guy? Robert Byrd. I don't know if you know, he was senator from
I don't
Virginia.
know. I've heard of him.
He was a Klansman. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, the Democrats at one point controlled the South. We used to call them blue dog Democrats, that they were more conservative. They talked about family values, talked about Christianity, blah, blah, blah. So they've all either died off or become Republicans. You can Google, what is it, Nixon, the Southern strategy, where the Republicans went into the South to, take control of it. And if you look at elections, the red states are mostly in the South.
Hmm.
So, yeah, the politics, a party, like you said, they started out as the racist party. It was, obviously Lincoln was a Republican. After the Civil War, the Republicans won all through the South because they liberated the slaves and stuff. But then the Democrats came in as, these conservative Christian segregationists. I assume Wallace was a Democrat.
Hmm.
Strom Thurmond from
Hmm.
North Carolina was a Democrat who, was in the Senate for like 70 years or something crazy. I think he was 90 something when he died,
Hmm.
or in Congress. So yeah, those party demographics have flipped. The South has become Republican and anti-union. I don't think they're that racist, but they're not hugely pro-black. We're not hugely pro-immigration. And
Well, I get the
the Democrats are also hugely pro-union and stuff, but the unions are only in the North, and they're dying. So, other than the teachers union and some of these bigger unions, the steel workers aren't much. The automobile workers aren't much. It's mostly robotics now. So now the Democrats have gone socialist, communist, free shit for everybody. Look at Mondami in New York. You got the Squad.
So they seem to have gone for champagne socialism. That they have, these. Well,
exactly.
Well, there was something.
The rich liberal white women who've never worked a day in their life are all about the working man and communism. Although
being generous with other people's money.
Exactly.
But there was a figure called Lady Bountiful, wasn't there? I don't know if it's an American or a British character. But there was this idea of this, wealthy woman called Lady Bountiful, and she was always a rich and generous woman, derogatory and over-patronizing woman, showing off her wealth by acts of overwhelming, quotes, generosity. I don't know where the expression came from. Was she some character in a book or something? It's a British play. A character created by a British dramatist born in Ireland. So
Ben Berg says Dixiecrat flipped into moral majority movement. That's probably true. Yeah. Who was it? Jimmy Swaggart? Who was the moral majority guy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any of the televangelists?
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Swaggart, Oral Roberts, somebody like that coined the term the moral majority.
Don't you think it would work if, under such a one-party state, you just get, union leaders who would represent the workers, you would get, I don't know, the Board of Trade or whatever you call it, Department of Commerce or, Department of Agriculture for farmers and, all these important sectors.
Claire, I got to take this call.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. Good to talk to you.
Hello.
Oh, I suppose I should deal with the comments. Let's go. Mike is an atheist. Oh yes, I'm glad I went back to the decided to deal with your comments before I left. So on the question of liberalism, I hadn't quite finished what I was going to say. So I'm saying there's something fundamentally wrong about valuing liberty as an end in itself. So yes, we all like money and we all like holidays and that sort of thing, but too much liberty means we're back to the law of the jungle. So you can see this idea of how extremes meet. Yes, we would like our free speech and our free association and freedom of contract, but if it gets ever to the stage of us being free to take other people's stuff and kill other people and whatever, then we're actually back to where we were before we had law and order. We would be back to the law of the jungle. So for this reason, we can deduce that liberty should not be considered an end in itself, and therefore there's something fundamentally wrong with using liberalism as a religion. Or an unofficial religion, because I think the identity of Westerners is conflicted. Some of them think they're Christian, some think they're liberal, and some of them think they're conservatives without necessarily being Christian, and there is a lot of confusion. And maybe these labels are just not good enough, and we should have a better ideology. And I'm proposing, as a nationalist, as a civic nationalist, that nationalism should be defined as government in the national interest, and then I think more and more people will agree that, if they have to live under a government and they can't always have things in their own way, then they might be prepared to make more sacrifices for the greater good if any government policy is arguably in the national interest. So, that will make us more likely to, make sacrifices, become responsible married parents, pay our taxes, etc., etc. And I think the fairer system would be a system that has a long-standing track record of supporting marriage and family values. Because I think, a lot of the problems now of uncontrolled mass immigration is because of the low birth rate caused by feminism. I think you can lay the blame of uncontrolled mass immigration at the door of feminism, because feminism makes people delay marriage, not have enough children, not stay married parents. So, we just acknowledge that feminism operates through bribing men with cheap extramarital sex, and this has caused all the problems that so many people are complaining about, and of course the ICE shootings, the shootings in Minneapolis is a consequence of that. And I think there seems to be people deliberately pouring oil over troubled waters and getting themselves provoked, and maybe deliberately provoking other people whom they know not to share their views, because I guess people can get to a stage where they are looking to provoke and get provoked, because they mistakenly, I think, want to make a point. Or they feel they have to fight for, their political tribe. And why I think it's important, even for non-Americans, is that Americans, set the standard for, individual liberty, and if they were to often get shot for demonstrating against their government, I think eventually it will have consequences for us, and I don't think Europeans are feeling particularly I don't think they find it reassuring that Trump is helping himself to, European lands. So what must they do? I think if America sorts itself out, then I think the rest of the Western world will also sort itself out. The question is how, and obviously I am proposing imperial reform, secular Quranism, so that America will be a better run empire and not feel the need to go around taking other people's stuff. And obviously Europeans need to be able to resolve their own disputes and come to some sort of arrangement with each other. It will be particularly hard in Europe just because, it's full of different European countries and speaking different languages. But I think that there is already a very good grounding of EU countries speaking English, because basically, the EU is an American idea. It is kind of the commercial arm of America, while NATO is the military arm of America, in imposing the vassal state status of the European countries. But back to the problem of America resolving its perennial problem of deciding who, which side of the argument the government should support. And I believe traditionally it's states' rights or federal supremacy. And, obviously that's, the Civil War was about. It was about banning slavery for all the states of America. And I'm actually saying that slavery was never banned by God. And if God did not ban slavery, who are Americans who claim to be one nation under God, trusting in God? I mean, who are they to ban these things? And the same applies to Britain too. And part of the problem of uncontrolled mass immigration is the labour problem. And I'm saying the labour problem is caused by an overgenerous welfare state. And the problem of the welfare state is that, well, once it exists, people will want to claim its benefits, and then there will be costs that will keep rising the more people claim benefits from the welfare state, and then they will become dependent, and then they'll become unproductive, and then there will be a labour shortage. I know people who say things like, "Oh, there are plenty of people. Why do they have to keep bringing in the immigrants?" But I guess, if you have a shop or factory or farm to run, you will say, well, there may be a lot of people, but they're not prepared to do the work, and that's why these immigrants have to be imported. And there is also something called the welfare trap, when somebody on benefits is not going to find it worth their while to get a job unless the salary, the wage, is significantly higher than what he is currently getting from the state. And the point of slavery is really to make sure. The point of slavery is to enable workfare, and workfare is basically making people earn their state benefits. But this causes a problem of increasing the cost of the welfare state, because then you have to hire people to get the person claiming benefits to work, and they would be unwilling labor, and it would actually add to the cost of it. Some of you may have heard of the Victorian workhouse, and this was eventually abolished because it actually cost more money running it than just giving people relief while they could still live in their homes. But as you can see, attitudes towards claiming welfare have changed over the centuries, and there was a time when the working classes, or the respectable working classes, were too proud to claim, and now even the middle classes think it's their entitlement. So obviously there's a lot of work that could be done by locals that isn't being done. I know what I propose is quite controversial, but it doesn't need to be inhumane. I think it could easily be arranged to be beneficial and humane and efficient once people decide to hear me out. But I won't discuss this further on this stream. So what are the economic arguments against slavery? What are they? Yes, I do say liberalism is a religion, because you do get fanatical liberals who are, obviously fighting Trump and ICE and, border control, as if they were the enemy. All right, I will make a point of, well, at least looking up the plot of the Brotherhood of the Bell on Wikipedia. What is the background image? I just got it from StreamYard. No, it wouldn't be Ben Shapiro telling us to have more kids. The government would just say, a married couple will be deemed to have completed their family, at, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. I'm afraid I wasn't paying much attention to what Ursula von der Leyen was saying about South America. I don't know about the Seventh-day Adventist thing. A Galilean dialectic problem? What do you mean? A Galilean dialectic problem reaction solution method involves fabricating or intensified problems, offering a draconian solution, settling for a compromise that furthers the intended goal. I suppose you mean kayfabe. No, nobody badmouthed you, Mike, but I'm just going to finish the stream. Thank you all for coming. Oh, yes, TIA says nobody even gets married anymore, but, well, you could incentivize marriage by, well, just by the government saying it, and then treating unmarried parents as sex offenders, which I've been going on about for years and years and years. I actually have to go. Thank you, Mike, for offering. Well, okay, you can come, but I have to do a few things. So, if you want to talk to the chat, but I have to not be here for 20 minutes or so. Oh, yes, thank you, Mike, for remembering what I was saying about the segregation system of my A, B, and B+ schools. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going? You're leaving.
Yes, it's still going strong.
You're going to allow an American to run your British channel?
Yes, I think the comments are coming thick and fast. So I'll let you chat to them for a bit, and I'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, take your time.
I'm sure you have lots to say.
Algorithm. Let's see if we can get some algorithm points up. Sorry,
okay.
I had to take the phone call from my new employer. I'm going back to work. Mm-hmm. I'm becoming a stock boy so I can buy stock in Publix.
What do you mean, stock market? The stock market, or some other kind of stock?
Sorry, Publix, Publix. I'm not sure where they got the name from. Is like the major grocery store here in Florida, mm-hmm. And it's not publicly traded. It's employee owned.
Mm-hmm. So, like a cooperative.
It is. It's kind of communist now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
because it's profit sharing with the employees, right? Is that what
Correct.
it is?
Correct.
Hmm.
Yes. Stock boys stock the shelves. I'm going to
Okay.
stock the shelves. I'm going to put cans of soup on the shelf and then buy stock in the company because it's a good company. They
Yes.
bought out Albertsons, which is another grocery store out of like Idaho or something, but they were in Florida. They were fairly big. And in St. Pete, where I used to live, in Shore Acres, one of the Albertsons was across the street from the Publix, and they both became Publix, and they're both packed. It's like unbelievable. They're right across the street from each other.
Right. And the cheap. I mean, or the keen prices.
They're a little expensive, but the women love it. Their tagline
Okay.
is "Where shopping is a pleasure," and apparently the women think that's true. I
Okay.
personally shop at Aldi's, which is a German company.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was going to ask if you had an Aldi's, but
yeah. Aldi's just bought out most of the Winn-Dixies, which also was a Florida, Jacksonville-based grocery store.
mhm.
So Aldi's is expanding here in America. When I was in Germany, we went to an Aldi's. My sister thought that was great. We went to Aldi's.
Hmm.
And what was the other store? REWE. Have you ever been to Germany?
Uh, Not recently, and I don't remember the names of the supermarkets. But I'll let you talk for a bit. I have to step away for a minute.
All right, you do what you got to do. So, TIA, you say marriage is still a bad deal. Why is that? Come on, somebody come on. I can't just sit here and talk to myself, can I? I guess we could do like improv or something. Somebody throw an idea at me. What do you want me to ramble about? Yes, Claire. Has anyone here read Claire's book? Hang on, I got a copy right here. I hope I don't put my ass in your face. Here's Claire's book, The Secular Koranist. Maybe we should just read her book. We'll do like Andy Kaufman with War and Peace. Introduction. Why should anyone listen to me? Or, as the Americans would say, what's the big idea? I'm not sure Americans would say that, but anyways. Why should anyone listen to me? A social media bum who hasn't had a proper job in decades. Claire, you haven't had a job in decades? Oh, Lord. Okay. I did manage to pass my bar exams. Oh, all right. And graduated with a degree in law. Prior to that, I worked as a legal secretary before marrying and becoming a mother. My only qualification is my interest in religion, politics, philosophy, and my belief that every problem has a solution, even if it is never used. Over the years, I've picked up some knowledge of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, as well as Western history and culture, though not through academia. Not through academia. As a political activist and a moral and political philosopher, wishing to define nationalism as government in the national interest, I have concluded that the breakdown of the rule of law in the West has led to the breakdown in trust and confidence in the government, which has twin factors that exacerbate each other. Who am I to claim I have all the solutions to the declining global empire, apparently suffering from amnesia and dementia? Not only do I claim to have a solution, I also claim to have the only viable solution that is morally and intellectually respectable based on deduction and religion. All right, it's a pretty boring book. Does anyone want to discuss anything? We went over the ICE shootings. The cops will get off because they're cops. They're allowed to shoot people all the time. We've seen worse instances of them shooting innocent people. In fact, what was the New York case, that Eric Garner guy who got chokehold? He was morbidly obese. That's probably what killed him. But I think the same week an Asian cop shot a black guy going into his own apartment in New York. And he was let off scot-free. Is anyone here well versed in Islam? I'm mostly known as an Islamophobic troll. So I like to discuss Islam and its many bad ideas. Anybody in the chat want to throw up why slavery is a good thing under Islamic rule? Watch Seventh-day Adventist Walter J. Veith. Well, who is the Seventh-day Adventist chick? Like Elaine White or something? Claimed to be a prophet. Ben, are you a Seventh-day Adventist? I think Ben Carson is one. He thinks the pyramids were built for grain storage. I have a buddy who went to a Seventh-day Adventist school over in Orlando. Florida Hospital, I think it was called. He became a radiation therapist. But he crashed his car into the tree in front of the president's house one night drunk. It's kind of funny. That was back in the 90s. Anyway, do you believe Walter just says Islam was created by Catholicism? No, I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, okay. But it was funny. I was watching the Orthodox Muslim. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen this guy. He's a Canadian. But he was making an argument that Joseph Smith has more claims to being a prophet than Jesus. And so I was wondering if he would think the same thing about the Seventh-day Adventist chick who apparently in the late 1800s, early 1900s, had doctors observe her. She would go into a trance. Apparently would have no pulse for like 2 hours, wouldn't breathe for a couple hours while receiving divine revelation. But they seem a little nutty. There's a chick, Rosie's Corner, Muslim chick who came from the islands. And apparently there's a good bit of Seventh-day Adventists down in the Caribbean. But she converted to Islam. I know they say the Catholic priests all study Islam in the seminary. Funny, I have I don't know, I think he's like a sixth cousin or something who's a cardinal. My oldest sister and my oldest brother both have had backstage tours of the Vatican. I was raised Catholic, went to Blessed Sacrament and then Clearwater Central Catholic. So why would the Catholics create Islam? If they did, it ended up backfiring on them, kind of like us supporting the Mujahideen against the Russians. But the Byzantines fell to the Muslims mostly. I mean, obviously they were fighting the Persians for several hundred years. That degraded both empires. And the Muslims jumped up and filled the power vacuum. He says they created Islam to destroy Eastern Orthodox and Persians. Oh, okay. That could kind of make sense. Obviously, the Byzantines ruled over Egypt, and they didn't like the Orthodox, the Coptics down there. They persecuted them quite a bit. The Persians, though, were mostly Zoroastrians, I think, still in the time of the Byzantines. But why not just make the Arabs Catholic, right? If you could go in and start a whole new religion, why not just stick with the religion you already got and get them, on your side? Obviously, the Arabs and the Jews in Arabia and the Christians and the pagans in the area knew of Jesus. Why not just convince them Jesus was the risen God, as you convinced everyone else after Nicaea?
Well, it's harder to believe, isn't it, that Jesus is God? I mean,
there's still more Christians, Trinitarian Christians, than there are Muslims. I mean, the Muslims are just gaining ground through birth rates. So apparently it spread quite well. It doesn't make any sense
only
to me.
Because they were forced to believe in these religions by their monarchs, all those centuries ago.
Okay, so why not force the Arabs to believe it?
I suppose a lot of them are in a way forced by their parents or their governments to believe in it. I think a lot of people just follow the religion of mom and dad, don't they?
Sure. But the Arabs were also pagans, right? I mean, Jesus, under the Romans, just got rolled into the pantheon of gods for, hundreds of years, probably, or certainly decades, where it was he was just another god. And then they slowly pushed out the other gods, until obviously Constantine, made Christianity legal. I guess he didn't make it the official religion of the Byzantine Empire, but he made it legal, and then it spread. So I'm confused why you couldn't convince pagans who have multiple gods not to believe Jesus is a god.
You keep fading out.
I hear myself.
Close a few windows.
Sorry.
Perhaps you'll say again what you just said about Jesus, Constantine.
Why would it be hard to convince pagans who have multiple gods that Jesus was a god?
It wouldn't be hard at all, and that's been done. But I suppose now, with our knowledge and the fact that Islam is around, people would be talking about empiricism and
I was responding to Ben in the chat saying that Islam was created by the Catholics. I asked why would the Catholics create Islam? He said to destroy the Eastern Orthodox. I'm assuming he's talking mostly the Egyptian Coptics and the Persians. And I said, well, why not just rather than turning all the Arabs into Muslims, why not just make them Catholics? And then you said, well, isn't it harder to convince people Jesus was a god? And I'm talking about in the 7th century. I would say no, because they were already pagans, so they had multiple gods. So to throw a new god into the mix shouldn't be hard at all. And then eventually weave the other gods out and to claim one triune God. I mean, the Trinity, I think goes back literally to the Egyptians. It's weird how these numbers seem to last throughout history. 3, 7, 40, Moses 40 days. There's all sorts of 40s all through weird religious texts. So I'm just saying, if you wanted to take down the Persians through the Arabs, make them, and you're the Catholic Pope or the Constantine or whoever, just make them Catholics. Why create a whole new religion? That doesn't make sense to me. Hebrew and Phoenicians are Canaanite or dialects. Okay.
Are you saying? When you said why create a new religion, I suppose if the religion is from Allah, then God might say, Christianity's idolatry. So I created a better revelation for Gentiles than what Jews received in their Torah.
Right.
And as for the New Testament, well, none of it is from God.
Okay. I'm just trying to answer the question that Ben put in the chat, that the Catholics created Islam. Obviously, if you're a god and you want to be worshipped and you think all the religions currently on the planet aren't doing the right job, you might send your last prophet messenger to create a new religion. But that's all predisposed to there being a God who demands to be worshipped.
Well, the Jews had such a God, didn't they?
Sure.
You know, all this stuff about, you know, worship no other idols, I am your God, and I'm a jealous God, and you should fear me. But I suppose if you're being logical about it, the Quran is better than the Torah because it's for everyone and it doesn't have all those capital offenses. And it supports the First Amendment.
You keep saying that, but I don't think so. I don't see any Islamic country that is pro First Amendment. I don't see anywhere the ulama makes any rulings, any fatwas coming out saying we believe in the First Amendment. You can insult Allah. It's quite the opposite. I mean, do you follow any of these blasphemy cases out of Indonesia?
Yeah, but the thing is, whether you like it or not, there are no blasphemy laws in the Quran. In fact, chapter 17, verse 111 says, Allah does not require a protector. So he doesn't need any blasphemy laws to protect his, you know, hypothetical hurt feelings. And there's chapter 2, verse 256 that has Allah saying there is no compulsion in belief. And well, I'm happy with that narrative. And as for the Muslims who say, oh, that's not what our hadith say, we execute people who come out of Islam, but then it's like, well, it's not even in the Quran. You're just making crap up because, you know, for reasons of political expedience. And according to the Sunni narrative of the 4 rightly guided caliphs, the sort of implying that there were only 4 rightly guided caliphs in their entire history of 1400 years, because all the other ones were not rightly guided, and they were not rightly guided because they were absolute monarchs. And this means...
Well, sure. Well, the 5th caliphate was Muawati, right? The guy from
someone called Marwan or something like that.
It's like M-U-A-W-T-A. He was the father of Yazid I, who he put in as he fought Ali in the Battle of Siffin. Some would say he's a Khawarji. I don't know. But yeah, after Ali died, I mean, and it's funny because Ali, if you read the hadiths, you got the hadith of pen and paper where Muhammad's on his deathbed and he asks him to bring him pen and paper, presumably so he could dictate something because he was supposedly illiterate. And Omar refused. He said, we have the Quran. That's all we need, which is also ironic that the hadith followers, how they don't take that hadith as saying all hadiths are wrong. That's a hadith. He says, we have the Quran. That's all we need. And then they supplement it with Bukhari and Muslim and Abu Wadud or whatever, all those guys.
Yeah, but anyone can interpret the Quran, and time will tell if they've got the correct
but
interpretation.
That's the problem. The Quran is open to huge interpretation. It says, 532, 533, both says to kill people for spreading corruption. That could mean almost anything, right? If I say Muhammad's a false prophet, maybe I'm spreading corruption, I can be killed.
Well, it talks about
it's worse.
Rebels,
worse than the Second Amendment.
Revolutionaries.
What's that?
533 concerns somebody who's actually rebelling against a subversive,
Well,
guilty of sedition, wanting to
that can be an
overthrow.
interpretation, or the interpretation can be, okay, so if I say, if I say I'm living under your caliphate and I say Muhammad's a false prophet, your religion is false, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in your God, could that be termed rebellious? Insurrection, right?
Oh, it depends on whether you're leading a revolutionary army against me, I guess.
Okay. Well, first of all, 532, it is because of this, right? So what is the this in 532? It's because of this. We did ordain unto the children of Israel that if you kill one innocent life, unless it be for spreading corruption, sometimes translated as making mischief in the land, it shall be as if you killed all mankind. And if you save a life, it will be as if you saved all mankind. But many go on committing all manners of excesses on earth. Something like that, right? So what is the this? I mean, they use pronouns without antecedents all the time in the Quran. It's extremely confusing. But you've read
Okay,
the
I'm going
Quran.
to look up 533 under the
Look up
Corpus
532.
Quran.
Pull up 532 first.
Okay. So it says, because of that, we decree upon the children of Israel that whoever kills a soul, and this for a soul or for corruption done in the land, it is as if he had slain mankind entirely. Okay, so murder is not allowed, and whoever saves one, it is as if he had saved mankind entirely. I mean, it's kind of hyperbolic, isn't it?
Very
And then,
much.
and our messengers had certainly come to them with clear proofs. Then indeed, many of them, even after that, throughout the land, were transgressors. It's okay. It's vague. So 533 is the one you're talking about.
Well, no,
indeed,
I'm talking about both. But so, do you know what because of that is referring to?
Well, we'll have to read 533 to determine the context.
No, you got to go. You got to go the other way.
What 531? Are you telling me to read 531 now?
Well, I don't remember the verse, but it's Cain kills Abel. If you read before those verses, Cain kills Abel, then Allah sends a crow to bury a dead crow. Well, Cain laments killing his brother, but he couldn't bury his brother. And this crow does what I could not, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but if it's a story, there's nothing to do. I mean, it's only the commandments of Allah saying do this and don't do that. So the stories, we can just, we don't know what it's about, so we can just safely ignore it. So 533 says,
right.
Indeed,
it is but a just recompense for those who make war on Allah and his apostle and endeavor to spread corruption on earth, that they be slain or crucified or have their hands and feet cut off on opposite sides or be entirely banished from the earth.
Well, you could say it only applies to, it's confined in time to Muhammad, and he's dead. So there's no need for this order punishment. You could
absolutely. That is one interpretation of it. I've had Muslims tell me this is time sensitive. I think Nurman Ali Khan says that. He also talks about the verses of the sword being time sensitive, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, not all Muslims agree. I mean, you did see what the Islamic State did to the Yazidis, right? You do see what Muslims do
but
throughout the world, to the Coptic Christians, to.
Yeah, but people, if they are in a position to interpret it, they will do so, and they might be mistaken or deliberately twisting the words of the Quran in order to get the result they want, kill their enemies horribly. But I'm saying, surely you trust your Supreme Court to interpret it in a humane and American way.
Absolutely not. I do not trust.
Okay, so you do you not want? Are you against the death penalty in principle?
Yes, I'm against the death penalty. And I'll tell you why. I used to be for the death penalty. And then DNA evidence came out, and it turns out we put a bunch of people to death. They were probably still criminals, because usually you don't get charged with killing someone if you haven't done other things badly. But wrongly, we've misinterpreted it. I'm against the jury system. I think it's a bad idea to pull just 12 people off the street to decide what should happen to people. I would rather see a judge panel you see in other countries of 3, 7, 5, whatever judges who understand law and are educated and aren't just swayed by, slick talking lawyers to decide people's. There's all sorts of things in America that I disagree with. Because I don't hold our Constitution to be sacred. I can look at the Constitution and say, yeah, like I said, the Second Amendment, not well written, right? I mean,
you don't agree with gun rights?
I'm all for gun rights, but it says you shall not infringe on one's right to bear arms, and then goes on to say a well-regulated militia, right? So the liberals will say, well, the well-regulated part means you need to, like Switzerland, they have a ton of guns, but they're locked up and they're all registered to people, So it's a self-conflicting statement.
Well, because you now have a standing army. You have a standing army and no citizens' militia. So you've gone against the Constitution already. Because okay, the whole point of having a militia is that you don't have a standing army, so you won't be, thinking, oh, I'm paying for this standing army. You might as well do something useful and, conquer, this person's, the next state or something, which I guess was easily foreseeable.
Right. So the Second Amendment says, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay.
But I think all it means, Mike, is that.
So you don't think regulation is by definition an infringement?
Of course, it has to be regulated. You can't have mad people, criminals, just buying guns off the street. As long as you're a person of good character, yes, you can own a gun and subject to the usual checks on your mental health and whatever, criminal record. I mean, that seems reasonable, doesn't it?
It does, but those aren't the laws in America. I can post.
I know.
We don't have newspapers anymore. I can post on Facebook Marketplace, I have a gun for sale, and sell it to you. Okay? There's gun shows. It's also often called the gun show loophole. Anyone can go to a gun show and usually just buy a gun from somebody.
Well, then what must happen is every gun has to have a registered owner. That's how it's done.
Okay.
So you can always trace a gun, and if somebody goes crazy and starts shooting people, it'll be, well, how come you got a gun license? How come nobody noticed that you were crazy?
I'll give you, for instance, my parents just went into the old folks' home, so they were cleaning out the house. So my dad gave me a German Mauser that my grandfather brought back from World War II off a dead Nazi. And I turned around and gave it to my nephew because he's a bit of a gun nut. That's not registered. Nobody knows that exists.
Well, is it working? Does it still shoot?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. I fired it. My grandfather used to use it for deer hunting. It's got a scope on it.
Oh, a rifle. It's a rifle, is it?
Yeah, it's a bolt action rifle. 1898 model. So it was standard rifle for the Germans in World War II.
Well, I mean, don't you think that it should be regulated a little bit at least? You can't just let, children own guns, or, should you? Or people
I'm for some regulation. Like I said, I mean, I guess I'm a liberal conservative. I have no problem with saying people should register their guns. I would like to see a national ID post 9/11. We're getting closer, but you know, we could root out all these illegals if they had to actually, everybody had to have a national idea. ID.
But I mean, I was thinking of your militias because I do go on about it and said, oh well, we've got our standing army now, and we're not going to dissolve them. But I think the whole idea of the militia is that the police would also be the soldiery, so the one and the same, and it would be economical. And I guess only men of good character would be allowed to become a member of the citizens' militia, because you're not going to, let the local drug dealer or gangster become, run the militia. So, in a way, it can be regulated, and of course, these men should be armed. And well, I don't see the problem. I think maybe some Americans might even like the idea if they maybe are complaining too much about police brutality. Maybe this system might be better, or it could be worse. I suppose you could still get trigger happy citizens militias, but then men would have to take a more active role in the community, and some may not wish to become active, but it might, make you all more masculine,
right,
and respected by your women who might, yeah.
And it's kind of ironic. California was an open carry state until the Black Panthers started walking around with shotguns. And so then they regulated guns quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, also in America, the Army is not supposed to patrol on American ground. Trump's talking about calling in the National Guard, which of course has happened before. Kennedy called in the National Guard to desegregate the South and whatnot. But the standing Army by law is not to patrol the streets of America. I mean, obviously laws can be changed.
You're not even supposed to have a standing army, are you? According to the Constitution.
Security is one of the main things mentioned in the Constitution, that the government, is first and foremost role is to secure the nation.
So what do you think the founding fathers intended? That there should be an army, and the citizens' militia was the police force. Is that what it's meant to be? How they imagined it to be?
I'm not sure. I don't think there was a whole lot of policing going on in those times. I mean, it was usually like a posse. I mean, much of our law comes out of English common law, right? Not civil law or the rest of the Europeans. We come mostly from the British. When something happened, yes, the community, like a militia, would group together, create a posse, and they'd go after somebody or whatnot. To hear the liberals talk about it, policing came out of mostly the South, of slave catchers to run down slaves who ran away. It's to go into European history. I think Paris is called the City of Lights. Why do you think Paris is called the City of Lights?
I don't know. Why is it called the City of Lights?
Because it was one of the first cities to have night lighting for security. People think it's romantic or something, but it comes to, they had gas burning lampposts. I think the Brits just retired the last lamp post lighter guy or something a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago now. But yeah, nobody went out at night until the 1800s or something, or maybe even the 1850s, until you start, because you get robbed. It was pitch dark. There was no light, unless the moon was shining bright. Somebody come up behind you, whack you on the head, and take all your money. So until
according to AI, it says in 1667, King Louis XIV commissioned the installation of thousands of lanterns on main streets to improve the safety and reduce crime in a city plagued by darkness and violence.
Well, there you go.
So
much earlier than I thought. 16.
Yeah, 1667, which was quite a way back. I don't know when it started in the UK. Street lighting, Britain. I thought it was Victorian times, but I may be wrong. Yeah, it started in let me see. I think it said 17th century London too. Yeah, 17th century. Oh no, it says Paris had more than 2,700 streetlights by the end of the 17th century, and twice as many by 1730. Under the system, streets were lit with lanterns suspended 20 yards apart on a cord over the middle of the street at a height of 20 feet. As an English visitor enthused in 1698, the streets are lit all winter and even during the full moon. So I guess the French got it before the British.
Yeah, so I just Googled, because I remember reading this on the BBC, the last remaining lamplighters of London. Meet London's last lamplighters, 5 men whose job it is to maintain London's last remaining Victorian gas lamps, a tradition which dates back to 1812. And one steeped in history, blah, blah, blah. 1812, also the time you guys burnt our White House down.
Oh, dear.
British bastards.
Well, you've got a nice one now. A nicer one, probably.
We rebuilt, yeah.
During the 1812 war, yes?
The War of 1812, yeah, we got a little out over our skis on that one. We attacked you guys for your privateers and didn't quite have the Navy to back it up, which is also funny because have you ever read the Muslim ambassador from Tripoli's response to Jefferson? I can't remember if it was John Adams or John Jay, before the Barbary Wars. Jefferson asked him, what gives you the right?
Remind me.
Okay. So when we were a young nation, and I guess we're sending ships up into the Mediterranean to trade with the Italians, probably maybe get some wine or cheese from the French or whatever. And the North Africans, the Barbaries, would take our guys captive and ransom them back to us and take our ships and whatever booty they could. So Jefferson's in London with, I think it was John Adams, and the ambassador for Tripoli, comes in, and Jefferson, what gives you the right to, raid our ships? We've done you no harm. We consider all nations brothers. We're not attacking you. And he says, the Quran gives us the right. It tells us to wage war on all Kufr nations. And though we ended up, then we talked to the British guy, and he's like, well, you got to pay them. You got to pay them tribute. They're like the mob. They control the shipping lanes. So we ended up giving them like $660,000 a year for 4 or 5 years until we were able to build a navy. And then we attacked them in the first, second, third. I don't forget how many Barbary wars there were.
Well, I mean, Islam is unashamedly an imperial religion. I mean, it actually says go and exact the jizya from these non-Muslims. But obviously, only if you think you're going to win the war.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Do you ever watch any Daniel Hikaju?
Oh, yes.
The Muslim skeptic. He did a thing.
Yes, he's attacking the Wahhabis, isn't he?
Well, they claim he's a secret Salafi. He's Iranian. Although he says his parents were pretty much secular. He was raised as a secular, but he says he's Sunni. But he said something about the Deobandis that upset the Salafi. He said something, in support of the Iranians, that they were the only ones who were going to attack Israel, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's hilarious, the Dawa drama, right? Him and Jake were on PDB The
Mm-hmm.
what's that guy's name? He's down in South Florida apparently. Guy made a couple $100 million in insurance money. He's got his little internet thing going. But anyways, Patrick Bet David. Him and
Who is
Jake
Christian?
Roll. He is a Christian. He's an Iranian Christian. Yeah, he fled Iran after the revolution in '79. But so sometimes he says something good about Islam, and they all put it up, and then sometimes he says something bad about him, and they're all like, "Oh my God!" Anyways, Daniel was talking about jihad. When is jihad allowed? Blah, 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 right. So, do you know the supposed terms of jihad? Of the sword,
I'm not sure.
The internal struggle.
Well, yeah, it means struggle, armed struggle, or the struggle with oneself, and
right,
or even a verbal struggle, a battle of ideas, that kind of thing.
Right, but in the West, we talk about jihad of the sword, as in violent war jihad, right? So. Most of the Muslims will claim first you write a letter to the Kufr nations, right, to the disbelievers, and you invite them to Islam. You say, hey, listen, guys, we know the truth. We got this God. Come worship him with us. Everything.
Yes, Muhammad was known to have written a few letters of that kind.
Right.
It's on Wikipedia.
Right. Now, if they don't accept the letters, or if they don't convert, right, you say, well, we're going to send in da'i, right, dawah guys. And we're going to try to talk to your people and convert them. Now, if you don't allow that, then you get invaded. Although the Muslim Lantern actually added that, well, we'll send in merchants. And if you don't allow that, then you get invaded. But anyways, Daniel did a big thing on jihad and when it's allowed and blah, blah, blah. And so like the Islamic State, who declared themselves a caliphate, right? That's the other thing. You declare yourself a caliphate. He said their jihad was pretty much okay, except they lost, right? They weren't strong enough. So they made jihad a little too soon, right? They attacked the Yazidi, they enslaved, and where are all these messages being retracted? Anyway. So his whole point wasn't you can't enslave women. You can't attack the Yazidi, call them devil worshippers and do whatever you want. It's you lost. So you weren't strong enough to do it. So that was a bad idea. But yes, from the halls of Montezuma.
Well, so you have to.
That's the fight song of the Marines. One of the first.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, waging an imperial war is a different proposition to waging a defensive war. And the preparations are different, and whatever. And obviously they're not worth even waging if you don't think you're going to win, or at least think you have a 75% probability of winning. Well, you kind of have no choice but to fight a defensive war. But
right. Well, and I find it funny, and I ask Muslims this. Maybe you can explain it to me, Claire. Maybe not. It's interesting that ISIS drew up to 40,000 fighters, maybe 5,000 or more from Western countries to come and fight for them, but the Palestinians didn't draw anyone.
Well, there's a theory that ISIS is really American mercenaries that the working for America. I mean, that was why there was a time when they kept changing their name, al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, and all different names to depending on where they were operating and which Islamic State they were trying to overthrow. And I think there was a time when America wanted ISIS to be attacking Syria, but not attacking Iraq. But anyway, it's all a bit complicated. But I mean, the point is that yes, you can get, crazy people, interpreting the Quran, but what I'm saying, America itself can interpret the Quran um, yes, for themselves. Americans can, do that, with their, Supreme Court, etc., etc. So,
Right.
I
So
just don't see what the problem is, except that you don't like the idea. I mean,
yeah,
surely
yeah,
you need some, rule of law. Otherwise,
absolutely, but
you're just
not that
leaving it
rule.
to your, politicians to make the rules up.
Okay. Well, forbidden to use the flesh of swine and alcohol, intoxicants. Yeah, I'm 100% against that. I like
Well,
my
the thing
pulled
is,
pork.
it's not a sort of total prohibition. I mean, in the UK,
What are you talking about?
publicans, well, publicans in Britain are not supposed to sell alcohol to somebody already drunk. So, that seems quite reasonable. They could lose their license if somebody already drunk tried to buy a drink from them. Not allowed to sell them alcohol. Can't sell alcohol to somebody underage. You're not allowed to be drunk and disorderly. You're not allowed to drink and drive.
But
All
it's
kinds of rules.
and disorderly, right? The disorderly is the important part of it. You're not allowed to be disorderly, period, whether you're drunk or not. I can't go out and sober and start shooting guns in the air and waving swords around. The disorderly part is, they throw drunk in there because we still
I
have
think
the
it's just an aggravating element. It's like, it's bad enough that you're being disorderly. Oh, you're drunk too. Double punishment kind of thing. It sort of.
well. That's actually funny because I think it's nowadays it's the exact opposite. So in 1988, when I was at the University of Florida, my two roommates were drunk one night. They came home at like 3 in the morning. We didn't have any food in the dorm room. So the one guy said, "Oh, I know this girl. I lived in Beatty Towers, 1104 Beatty Tower East. It's a 13-story tower." Uh, he's like, "I know this girl down a couple floors. Let's go ask her if she's got some food." So they went down there. They knocked on the door. Nobody opened. Nobody came to the door. So they walked in. They took some food, came up and ate it. So a week later,
Mm-hmm.
they get the idea of, let's just knock on doors, and if nobody opens, let's go in and take their food. So they did this like 4 or 5 times. They would just
Mm-hmm.
take trash bags and steal people's food.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one roommate's talking to this girl, and he's bragging about this. Well, guess what? The girl knows a girl 3 floors below us who had all her food stolen. So she goes and turns them in, and they get arrested. You know what their lawyer said? Make sure you just keep saying you were drunk. You were drunk. The one guy called his father. His father came up, and he was a friend of Bob Martinez, who was our governor at the time, and got him kind of off. But anyways, the father's like, what do you mean? Why would we keep saying he's drunk? Isn't that bad? They're like, no, that's a good thing. So to say you're drunk nowadays means this wouldn't be normal behavior for you.
Yes,
So
it gives you the excuse.
Exactly. It gives you the excuse. This is not how I normally behave. I was drunk. It's like in Britain. You guys had was it like 10 years ago? Like 4 Somalis beat the crap out of some teacher, called her a slag. I guess that's some sort of British term for.
Okay, I'm not aware of that story, but
Oh, well, you should Google it. So they were Somali immigrants, right? They beat the crap out of this white woman, calling her a slag and just saying racist things to her. But of course, blacks can't be racist. And the judge ruled because they were drunk. And in Islamic culture, you don't drink. That I guess the women maybe claimed it was the first time they've ever been drunk or something. They are behaving outside of their norm, and gave them no prison time. They got off scot-free.
Yes. Well, I don't agree
You never heard of this
with
case?
using that as an excuse. This was in 2011. quite a while back.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it shouldn't be an excuse. I was drunk. I was intoxicated. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't be taking illegal drugs, or you shouldn't have, you know, it shouldn't be considered an excuse. It should be, considered, well, an aggravating factor.
Yeah, a gang of Somali women who repeatedly kicked a young woman in the head walked free from court after a judge heard they were not used to being drunk. From the Telegraph.
Well, okay, this is what I'm reading from AI Overview. So it says, voluntary drunkenness is generally considered an aggravating factor in criminal sentence, particularly in England and Wales, as it tends to increase the offender's culpability rather than excuse their behaviour. Intoxication often acts as an aggravating factor when it contributes to the offence, with the law holding that individuals must accept the consequences of their actions.
Okay, but apparently you have a judge who's gone the exact opposite way.
Maybe they've changed the law. Okay, apparently it can mitigate or aggravate the sentence, depending on circumstances, I suppose. So nobody's really sure, but it should always, in my view, be treated as an aggravating.
So speaking of Somalis, how many Somalis you guys got over there?
Gosh, I don't know.
Have you heard about the big fraud cases in Minnesota?
Yeah. I saw a documentary on YouTube of these guys investigating the Somalians, and we saw them closing their doors and refusing to answer questions and that kind of thing.
Oh, that Nick guy. But it was funny because a buddy of mine, I texted him something. And he's like, "Well, I'm on a flight to Minneapolis." I said, "Well, watch out for the Somalis." And so a couple of days later, he texted me back. He said, "Yeah, I don't normally talk to like Uber drivers, but both my Uber drivers were Somalis, and they asked me where I was from, and he told them, and blah blah." So I asked them where they were from. He said the one guy said he was Somali, but he's actually from Kenya. So there's big dysphoria in Kenya, but and I forget the word he used, but he said, yeah, he was telling me about how they have a term about how when one Somali makes it, he's supposed to pull other Somalis up with him, kind of tribalism and stuff. And so, anyways, I thought he was going to say, like the Jews or the Irish, in America, with Irish need not apply against the Brits. They were, the cops all became Irish and stuff. But he was married to a Afrikaner years ago, 20 years ago. And he equated it to a Boer term of, like brotherhood or whatever. So they're very tribalistic, the Somalis. So it seems like one guy made some money on some fraud. He started telling his buddies how to do it, and they fleeced the American government out of maybe $9 billion. Has Mike heard about Epstein, Waxner, Prince Andrew, Trump, etc.? I've heard of Epstein, certainly. Prince Andrew stepped down, and yes, I know who Trump is. Wexner, I have never heard of.
Okay. According to
Express. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, about the story of the Somalis. I mean, I guess they could say, "Oh, we were drunk, but we're not used to being drunk, and because we're Muslim." So I guess, I mean, that excuse is you can only use it once, right? Because if you were a habitual drunkard, you can't use that as an excuse, because then it would be considered an aggravating factor.
Well, one would hope. One would hope you can't use it as an excuse even once. I mean, your actions are your actions. I've done some pretty dumb things when I was drunk, and yes, I would say they were out of character for me. But like you said, I chose to get drunk.
Mm-hmm.
behavior that then flows from those actions are my behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Uh, I just posted a little link from that article from the Telegraph, but I think this woman was pretty much head injured and might have medical problems for the rest of her life. I hope.
She wasn't with her boyfriend.
Yeah, and the boyfriend wouldn't hit the women. He like grab them bitches by the hair and throw them down. He was like pleading, like, stop hitting her, jump in and smack them hoes. But
right.
Us men are raised not to hit women, so sometimes
surely he was
if
meant
a
to
group of
protect
women were
her.
beating the crap out of my girlfriend, yeah, I would have probably beaten them to death. I'd have punched them in the face and smacked their head on the wall.
Mm.
Who knows? They might have died, and then I go to jail.
But then I suppose we're back to the question of reasonable force.
Well, you never know what blow can kill somebody. You punch somebody and they die. It's the glass jaw theory.
Mm-hmm.
You in American law, at least, you take the victim as you find them. There was a kid here in Clearwater. Again, this was back in the 80s. Some guy was mouthing off to him and he punched him. Kid fell back, hit his head, died.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I suppose you can't punch somebody who hasn't punched you first or come at you first, but
Mm-hmm.
if some woman was if 4 women had my girlfriend on the ground kicking and beating her, I would grab them by the back of the head and slam their head into the wall if there's a building nearby. That might kill them. Is that reasonable force? This is why we shouldn't have juries.
Well,
it's just like
they might decide against you anyway, even without a jury.
Back to your ICE guy. You bring a gun to your protest, the guys with guns might shoot you.
Well, it does sound like he was a troublemaker anyway. I mean, there's now a Wikipedia entry about him.
Oh, they're all clearly troublemakers. Why are they out banging pots and pans and let ICE go deport the illegals? No, that's not what the blue states do. They think they're, I don't know. They think they're the moral ones. What does the Kran say? What was that, 2-6? They claim to be the peacemakers, but they are the troublemakers.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask Ben, why did you all these messages retracted? Did you do that, Ben? Or colonizers troublemakers? Absolutely. Colonizers are troublemakers.
Well, I suppose you could say anybody who takes an interest in politics is a troublemaker and a busybody. Sure.
I mean, I think Frank Zappa said something like that. It's the radicals who create change. I mean, the Tea Party was troublemakers. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.
Yeah, people say it's the principle of the thing.